President Claire Martinez sat in the Oval Office, surrounded by the most important people in Earth's government. Secretary of State Linda Hayes was reviewing documents on her tablet. General Paul Bennett stood by the window, looking out at the Washington Monument. Director of Intelligence Karen Foster sat quietly in a corner chair, her expression unreadable. The Galactic Council's decision had arrived 3 hours ago. Claire had read it twice, consulted with her advisors, and called this emergency meeting to decide how Earth would respond. They want to quarantine us, General Bennett said, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. They think they can lock us in our own solar system like prisoners. That is not quite accurate, Linda Hayes replied calmly. The terms allow for trade, diplomacy, and cultural exchange. They are simply establishing a buffer zone and agreeing not to send military vessels into our space without permission. It is still a cage, Bennett insisted. We fought off 2 invasion attempts. We proved we can defend ourselves, and their response is to treat us like dangerous animals that need to be contained. Claire listened to the debate continue for several minutes. She understood both perspectives. Part of her felt insulted by the Council's fear, but another part, the pragmatic part that had gotten her elected president twice, recognized an opportunity. Karen, Claire said, interrupting the argument, what does intelligence say about galactic opinion right now? The intelligence director set down her coffee cup. They are terrified of us, Madam President. Not just concerned or cautious. Actually terrified. Our analysts believe at least 15 major species have increased military spending specifically in response to our actions. 3 species have pulled their ambassadors back to their home systems out of fear we might attack Council space. She pulled up a holographic display showing various alien news networks. The media across the galaxy is calling us everything from the warrior species to the Death Worlders to the apex predators. There are proposals in multiple governments to establish preemptive defensive positions around their core systems. One extremist faction even suggested developing weapons specifically designed to sterilize Earth. Good, Claire said quietly. Everyone looked at her in surprise. Madam President? Linda asked carefully. Claire stood and walked to the window, joining General Bennett. She looked out at the city, thinking about the hundreds of millions of people living their lives, unaware of how close they had come to galactic war. Let them be afraid, Claire said. Fear will keep them from attacking us. Fear will make them think twice before threatening us. Fear will give us the space we need to develop on our own terms. She turned back to face her advisors. Think about it. For 10,000 years, the Galactic Council has expanded unchallenged. They arrive at a new world, make demands, and the locals submit because resistance seems impossible. They have become accustomed to being the most powerful force in the galaxy. Then they met us, Claire continued, and for the first time in millennia, they encountered something that not only refused to submit but destroyed their ships when they tried to force the issue. That is not just a military defeat. That is a psychological shock. General Bennett smiled slowly. You want to use their fear as a weapon? Not as a weapon, Claire corrected. As a shield. If they are afraid of us, they will leave us alone. And right now, being left alone is exactly what we need. We are centuries behind them in technology. Our military is tiny compared to theirs. We need time to catch up, to develop, to become strong enough that quarantine is no longer necessary because everyone knows attacking us would be suicide. Linda Hayes nodded slowly. So we accept their terms, but on our own conditions. Make it clear that we are agreeing to the quarantine as a courtesy, not as a surrender. Exactly, Claire confirmed. We frame it as mutual benefit. They get a buffer zone that makes them feel safe. We get the freedom to develop without interference. Everyone wins. What about trade? Karen asked. Their proposal includes strict protocols for merchant vessels and cultural exchanges. Claire sat back down at her desk. We accept those terms with modifications. Any ship entering human space submits to inspection by our forces. Any alien who wants to visit Earth undergoes background checks and must follow our laws absolutely. We establish clear rules of engagement. If anyone threatens a human civilian anywhere in the galaxy, we respond with military force. That last part might be a problem, Linda warned. They will see it as us claiming extraterritorial authority. Let them, Claire said firmly. We need to make something very clear to the galaxy. Humans protect humans, always, everywhere, no exceptions. If one of our traders gets killed in alien space, we will hold someone accountable. If one of our diplomats gets threatened, there will be consequences. The message needs to be simple. You can trade with us, talk with us, even visit us. But you do not harm us. General Bennett leaned forward. And if they reject our counterproposal? Then we reject their quarantine, Claire said. We continue developing on our own. We expand into our solar system. We build more ships. We prepare for the war that will eventually come. But I do not think it will come to that. They are afraid. And fear makes people reasonable. Linda looked at the proposal again. When do you want to send our response? Tomorrow, Claire decided. Give our PR team tonight to craft the right message. Make sure every major news outlet on Earth and in Council space gets the story. Frame it as Earth accepting peaceful coexistence while maintaining our sovereign right to self-defense. What about Ambassador Park? Karen asked. He is still on the Council station. Should we recall him? No, Claire said. Kevin stays exactly where he is. He is going to be the face of humanity to the galaxy. And I want that face to be confident, professional, and just a little bit scary. 2 days later, Ambassador Kevin Park stood before the Galactic Council once again. This time the chamber was even more crowded. Everyone wanted to see how humanity would respond to the quarantine proposal. Kevin activated his datapad, and Earth's counter-proposal appeared on the screens around the chamber. He waited for everyone to have a chance to read it before speaking. The people of Earth have reviewed the Council's proposal, Kevin began. We appreciate the desire for peaceful coexistence. We share that desire. Therefore, we accept the establishment of a neutral zone around our solar system with the following modifications. He highlighted specific sections of the document. First, any vessel entering the neutral zone for any reason must submit to inspection by Earth Defense Force ships. No exceptions. We will not allow potential threats near our home without knowing exactly who and what they are. Second, trade and diplomatic relations will continue under protocols we establish jointly. Earth will maintain the right to refuse entry to any individual or vessel we deem a security risk. We will provide justification for such refusals, but the final decision rests with human authorities. Third, Kevin continued, his voice growing harder, Earth claims protection rights over all human citizens regardless of location. If a human is harmed anywhere in galactic space, Earth reserves the right to respond. The nature of that response will depend on the circumstances, but we will not allow our people to be victimized without consequences. Fourth, the neutral zone works both ways. No Council military vessels will enter human space without explicit permission from Earth Command. In return, no human military vessels will enter Council space without similar permission. However, civilian vessels and diplomatic ships may travel freely once proper protocols are established. Kevin looked around the chamber. Finally, let me be very clear about something. Earth is accepting this arrangement because it serves our interests, not because we are submitting to Council authority. We are an independent species with full sovereign rights. We will defend those rights against any threat, foreign or domestic. We want peace, he continued. We genuinely do. We would prefer to spend our resources on science, art, and improving life for our people, rather than building weapons. But we will not purchase peace through weakness. We will not accept submission disguised as integration, and we will not allow anyone to threaten our families without facing the full might of human wrath. He deactivated the datapad. These are our terms. They are non-negotiable. Accept them, and we will have a peaceful, mutually beneficial relationship. Reject them, and we will continue developing on our own until we are strong enough that quarantine is meaningless. Kevin gave a slight bow. The choice, as always, is yours. The vote took 3 hours of debate. Some species wanted to reject Earth's counter-proposal as arrogant. Others argued that accepting these terms would set a dangerous precedent. But in the end, pragmatism won. The Council accepted Earth's modifications unanimously. That night, Kevin sat in his quarters on the Council station, looking out at the stars. His personal communicator beeped and President Martinez appeared on the screen. Well done, Ambassador, Claire said with a small smile. You managed to turn their fear into a treaty that works in our favor. It is a temporary solution at best, Kevin replied. Eventually, we will outgrow the quarantine. Eventually, we will want to expand beyond our solar system. What happens then? Claire's smile faded. Then we renegotiate from a position of even greater strength. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been going for 3 days straight. Representatives from every major species in the galaxy crowded into the chamber. The air was thick with tension and fear. Ambassador Kelrin looked exhausted. She had been moderating the discussion since it began, trying to keep order as species after species called for action against humanity. Some demanded immediate military intervention. Others suggested economic sanctions. A few extremists even proposed destroying Earth from orbit before humans could spread beyond their solar system. "We cannot allow this aggression to stand," the Korthax representative declared. "The humans have now destroyed ships from 2 different empires. They refuse to acknowledge Council authority. They are a threat to galactic peace. They destroyed ships that attacked them first," Kelrin pointed out wearily. "In both cases, the humans were defending their home system against unprovoked invasion. They could have disabled those ships," another representative argued. "They could have captured them. Instead, they chose maximum casualties. This shows a dangerous tendency toward violence." The debate continued in circles. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone had a solution. But no one could agree on what to do. Then the doors to the council chamber opened and silence fell. An elderly figure entered, moving slowly but with undeniable dignity. She was a member of the Varix Coalition, a species so ancient that most others could barely comprehend their history. The Varix rarely spoke in council sessions. They preferred to observe and advise privately. For one of their elders to appear personally was unprecedented. Elder Sareth made her way to the speaker's platform. Her body was frail with age, but her eyes were sharp and clear. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of 50,000 years of accumulated wisdom. "I have remained silent during these proceedings because I hoped you would see the truth yourselves," Sareth began. "But it is clear that fear has blinded you to reality, so I will tell you something that few in this chamber are old enough to remember." She paused, looking around at the gathered representatives. "We have encountered species like the humans before. Twice in our recorded history, we met races that evolved as apex predators, species that refined warfare to an art form, species that saw every interaction through the lens of competition and survival." A murmur ran through the chamber. This was news to most of them. "The first time was 37,000 years ago," Sareth continued. "They called themselves the Kethrin. They were brilliant and fierce. They had conquered their entire world before achieving spaceflight. When we tried to integrate them into galactic society, they refused. When we tried to force them, they fought back." She gestured to the historical displays around the chamber. The war lasted 60 years. The Kethrin had only a fraction of our numbers and inferior technology. But they were born warriors. Every battle cost us more than we could afford. By the time we achieved victory, half of all Varix were dead. 12 other species had been completely eliminated, and the Kethrin themselves were extinct. The chamber was completely silent now. "The second time was 9,000 years ago," Sareth said. "The Draxor. They were even more dangerous than the Kethrin because they understood mercy as a weakness. They showed no restraint. They took no prisoners. They fought with a purity of purpose that was terrifying. We tried to contain them. We tried to negotiate. Finally, we were forced to destroy their homeworld from orbit, but not before they had eliminated 37 different civilizations in their death throes." She turned to face the council directly. "The humans are more dangerous than either of those predecessors. Do you know why? Because they have something those others lacked. They have mercy. They have morals. They have rules they actually follow regarding non-combatants. How does that make them more dangerous?" someone asked in confusion. "Because it means they are intelligent predators who choose when to hunt," Sareth explained. "The Kethrin and the Draxor were like wild animals. Deadly, yes, but predictable in their violence. The humans are different. They can be peaceful. They can be diplomatic. They can be reasonable. But when they choose to fight, they bring the same intelligence and planning to warfare that they bring to science or art." She pulled up images of the recent battles. "Look at how they fought the Kryloth. They did not meet force with force. They studied their enemy. They identified weaknesses. They used terrain and deception. They calculated acceptable losses and maximized enemy casualties. This is not the behavior of mindless aggressors. This is the behavior of strategic thinkers who happen to be very, very good at violence." "Then what do you suggest?" Kelrin asked. "If they are so dangerous, how do we handle them?" "We leave them alone," Sareth said simply. The chamber erupted in protest. That was not acceptable. That was not a solution. That would set a dangerous precedent. Sareth waited for the noise to die down. "You do not understand. Leaving them alone is not weakness. It is wisdom. The humans have shown us exactly what they want. They want to be left in peace. They want to develop their own society without interference. They want to explore space at their own pace. They have also shown us what happens when we do not respect those wishes. She continued. The Korthax sent ships to threaten them. Those ships were destroyed. The Kryloth sent a fleet to conquer them. That fleet was annihilated. In both cases, the humans did not initiate conflict, but they finished it decisively. She looked around at the fearful faces. If we attack them now, we will win. We have thousands of ships for every one of theirs. We have weapons they cannot imagine. We have resources beyond their comprehension. But the cost will be catastrophic, because the humans will not simply fight us. They will study us. They will learn from every battle. They will adapt and improve, and they will never ever stop fighting until either we are destroyed or they are. The Kethrin and Draxer fought us conventionally, Sareth said. They met our fleets in open battle. They tried to match our military strength. The humans will not make that mistake. They will use terrorism, sabotage, guerrilla warfare. They will target our infrastructure. They will strike at our civilians if we strike at theirs. They will turn every advantage we have into a vulnerability. She gestured to the historical records again. Look at their own history. They have been fighting wars among themselves for their entire existence. They have fought with stones and sticks. They have fought with swords and shields. They have fought with bullets and bombs. They have fought with nuclear weapons capable of destroying their own planet. And through it all, they have refined the art of killing to a level no other species has ever achieved. But they also developed rules, Sareth emphasized. They created conventions to protect non-combatants. They established principles of proportional response. They built a framework of military ethics that they actually follow. This is what makes them unique. They know how to show mercy. They simply choose not to show it to those who threaten their families. She turned back to face the full council. My proposal is simple. We establish a quarantine around their solar system. We allow them to develop at their own pace. We open trade relations, but on their terms. We never under any circumstances send military vessels into their space unless invited. And most importantly, we never give them a reason to leave their corner of the galaxy looking for revenge. You want us to quarantine them out of fear? The Korthax representative demanded. No, Sareth corrected. I want us to respect them out of wisdom. The humans are not evil. They are not monsters. They are simply a species that evolved in a harsh environment and learned to survive through combat. If we treat them with respect, they will respond with respect. If we leave them alone, they will leave us alone. But if we try to force them, if we try to conquer them, if we try to eliminate them, then we will unleash something that will make the Kethrin and Draxor look like minor inconveniences. She moved toward the exit. Her speech finished, but she paused at the door and looked back one more time. I have lived for 3,000 years, Sareth said quietly. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have witnessed countless wars and diplomatic triumphs. And I tell you this with absolute certainty. The humans are the most dangerous species we have ever encountered, not because they love war, but because they are so very good at it. Make your choice, she concluded, but make it wisely, because if you choose wrong, it will be the last choice this council ever makes. She left the chamber, and the representatives sat in stunned silence. Kelrin looked around at her colleagues. She could see the fear in their eyes, but she could also see understanding beginning to dawn. The humans had not asked to be feared. They had not sought conflict. They had simply defended themselves with such efficiency that the entire galaxy now had to reconsider its approach. We will vote, Kelrin announced. All those in favor of Elder Sareth's proposal for peaceful quarantine and trade relations with humanity, indicate now. One by one, hands and appendages rose across the chamber. The Korthax were among the last to agree, but even they could not deny the logic of Sareth's argument. The vote was unanimous. Earth would be left alone. And the galaxy would hope that humanity chose to remain that way. The Kryloth hegemony had built their empire on a simple principle. Find a resource-rich world with weak defenses. Send in corporate negotiators first. If negotiations failed, send in the military. Conquer the planet. Strip its resources. Move on to the next target. It had worked 73 times. Earth was supposed to be number 74. High Merchant Zathros reviewed the intelligence reports on humanity with satisfaction. They had mineral-rich asteroids throughout their system. Their planet contained rare elements needed for advanced manufacturing. Best of all, their military was small and inexperienced. The incident with the Korthax had been luck, nothing more. Prepare the standard subjugation fleet, Zathros ordered. 40 warships. That should be more than enough to convince these primitives to accept Kryloth rule. His military advisor hesitated. High Merchant, perhaps we should reconsider. The humans destroyed a Korthax destroyer. They may be more dangerous than they appear. Zathros laughed. The Korthax sent one ship as a warning. We are sending 40 as a promise. There is a difference. The Kryloth fleet entered human space 3 weeks later. They broadcast their demands on all frequencies. Submit to Kryloth authority or be eliminated. Every human settlement, every military base, every civilian station received the same message. They had 48 hours to comply. Admiral, Lisa Watkins received the ultimatum while overseeing training. Exercises near Mars. She was a veteran with 20 years of service in the Earth Defense Force. She had fought in 3 different wars before humanity even knew aliens existed. She read the Kryloth demands twice, her expression growing colder with each word. Did they really just threaten to kill human civilians? She asked her tactical officer. Yes, ma'am. The message specifically mentions civilian targets if military forces do not surrender. Lisa set down the datapad and looked at her command crew. Every one of them was watching her, waiting for orders. They were ready to fight. They had been ready since the moment the Korthax fleet arrived months ago. Execute Protocol Omega, Lisa ordered. Full dispersal. Hunter-killer formations. And someone get me a line to Earth Command. Tell them we are going weapons-free. Protocol Omega was something humanity had developed during the Cold War decades earlier. It was designed for fighting an enemy with superior numbers and technology. The principle was simple. Do not engage in direct battle. Split your forces into small groups. Hit the enemy where they are weak. Avoid their strengths. Make every engagement cost them more than they can afford. The human fleet scattered. 40 warships became 80 smaller vessels as each ship split its crew and resources. Those 80 vessels disappeared into the asteroid belt, behind moons into orbital debris fields that had been mapped and prepared for exactly this scenario. They went silent, running on minimal power, waiting. The Kryloth fleet moved toward Earth confidently. They expected to find human ships clustered around their homeworld, desperately trying to form a defensive line. Instead, they found empty space. Where are they? Zathros demanded. Scan the entire system. They must be hiding. The Kryloth ships spread out searching. Their sensors swept through space looking for heat signatures, energy readings, anything that would reveal human positions. They found nothing. Then the attacks began. A single human corvette appeared from behind a large asteroid. It fired a spread of missiles at the nearest Kryloth cruiser, and vanished again before the cruiser could even lock weapons. The missiles struck shield generators and engine pods. The cruiser was not destroyed, but it was crippled, unable to keep pace with the fleet. 5 minutes later, another attack came from a completely different direction. A human destroyer emerged from the shadow of Mars's moon Phobos. It launched kinetic rounds at a Kryloth supply ship and disappeared into the moon's mass before return fire could be coordinated. The pattern continued for hours. Quick strikes from unexpected angles. Attacks that targeted specific systems, engines, weapons, shields, life support. The humans never stayed to fight. They hit and ran over and over, slowly bleeding the Kryloth fleet. Zathros watched in growing frustration as his fleet took damage from an enemy he could not even see. This is not warfare. This is cowardice. Stand and fight like warriors. But the humans did not stand and fight. They hunted. Captain Ryan Fletcher commanded one of the human hunter groups. His ship, a small frigate called the Defiant, carried a crew of 40. They had been tracking a Kryloth destroyer for 3 hours, waiting for the perfect moment. Sir, the target is moving into the debris field near Sector 7, his navigation officer reported. Ryan smiled. Sector 7 was where they had placed prepared surprises weeks ago. Old satellites fitted with explosives, chunks of metal with guidance systems, mines disguised as debris. Light them up, Ryan ordered. The Kryloth destroyer entered the field and suddenly found itself surrounded by explosions. Debris that had seemed harmless moments before became deadly weapons. The ship's shields flickered under the assault. It tried to reverse course, but the Defiant was already moving in. Ryan's crew had practiced this maneuver 100 times. They came in fast, targeted the shield generators with precise railgun fire, and launched a full spread of missiles at the exposed hull. The destroyer's armor held for a moment, then buckled. Secondary explosions rippled through the enemy ship as its own ammunition cooked off. "Target destroyed," the tactical officer reported. "No survivors detected." Ryan felt a brief moment of regret. He did not enjoy killing. But the Kryloth had threatened to kill human civilians. They had given humanity no choice. "Mark the location for recovery teams. Move to the next target." All across the solar system, similar engagements were happening. Small human ships were taking down larger Kryloth vessels using tactics the aliens had never encountered. Ambushes, false retreats, feints, and misdirection. The humans used every asteroid, every moon, every piece of space debris as a weapon or a hiding place. The Kryloth fleet tried to adapt. They grouped their ships together for mutual protection. But that just made them easier targets for nuclear weapons. They tried to chase individual human ships, but the humans knew the system better and led them into traps. They tried to withdraw to a safe distance, but the humans had already mined the likely retreat routes. After 18 hours of constant harassment, Zathros had lost 22 ships. More than half his fleet was damaged, and he still had not seen more than a few human vessels at a time. "We are withdrawing," he finally announced. "Set course for the jump point." But the humans were not finished. The Kryloth flagship, Zathros's command vessel, found its path blocked by a minefield that had not been there an hour before. The humans had somehow moved hundreds of mines into position while the battle raged, cutting off the most direct escape route. "Go around," Zathros ordered. "Take the long route if we must." As the fleet tried to navigate around the mines, human ships appeared on all sides. They were not running anymore. They were not hiding. They were attacking with everything they had, determined to exact the highest price possible. The Defiant came in alongside 6 other human vessels. They focused all their fire on the flagship's engines. Ryan watched as railgun rounds tore through armor plating. Missiles found weak points in the defensive grid. Lasers burned through hull sections with surgical precision. The flagship's engines exploded, leaving it drifting and helpless. Ryan opened a communication channel directly to the Kryloth command ship. "This is Captain Ryan Fletcher of the Earth Defense Force. Your fleet is broken. Your flagship is crippled. You came to our home and threatened our families. This is what happens when you do that." He paused, looking at the readouts showing the 3 Kryloth ships that were still somewhat functional. "I am going to let those 3 ships leave. They will carry you and your crew back to your empire, and you will tell them what happens when someone threatens human children." The channel closed. The human fleet watched as the 3 surviving Kryloth vessels limped away from the battle, dragging the crippled flagship with them. They did not pursue. They did not need to. The message had been sent. On the bridge of her command ship, Admiral Lisa Watkins looked at the tactical display. 37 Kryloth vessels destroyed or captured, 3 allowed to escape. Human casualties: 12 ships damaged, 143 personnel killed, 300 wounded. It was a victory. But Lisa did not feel victorious. She felt tired. "All ships stand down from combat alert," she ordered. "Recovery teams begin search and rescue operations. Medical ships prepare to receive wounded." Her tactical officer approached quietly. "Ma'am, the crew wants to know if we should celebrate. We just won a major battle." Lisa looked at the young officer and saw the excitement in his eyes. He was too young to remember Earth's wars. Too young to understand the cost of victory. "Tell them they can celebrate tomorrow," Lisa said. "Tonight we mourn our dead. We tend our wounded. We remember that every ship we destroyed had living beings aboard, and we prepare for what comes next." "And what comes next, ma'am?" Lisa looked out at the stars where alien empires waited. "Now they know we can fight. Soon they will have to decide if they want to keep fighting us or leave us alone. Let us hope they choose wisely." Commander Valen stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the small blue planet that orbited a yellow star. He had done this 1,000 times before on 1,000 different worlds. The routine was always the same. Arrive with a show of force. Make demands. Wait for the primitives to surrender. Then begin the integration process. Earth was supposed to be no different. The Korthax Empire had been expanding for 5,000 years. They were one of the most powerful members of the Galactic Council. Their military was feared across 1,500 star systems. When they arrived at a new world, resistance was not just foolish. It was unthinkable. Valen's fleet consisted of 12 warships. Each one was 3 times larger than anything the humans had in orbit. Their shields could withstand nuclear weapons. Their energy cannons could burn through a mountain in seconds. By all logic and reason, Earth should have immediately opened diplomatic channels and begun negotiating terms of surrender. Instead, silence greeted them. Valen sent the standard message again. It was translated into all major Earth languages simultaneously. The message was simple and clear. Earth was now under the protection of the Galactic Council. They would submit to Council authority. They would accept Council oversight of their military and government. They would begin paying tribute in resources and technology. In return, they would be allowed to exist. This time, a response came through. A human appeared on the communication screen. He wore a dark blue uniform with strange symbols on his chest and shoulders. His hair was cut very short. His eyes were a cold shade of gray. He looked directly at Valen without any sign of fear or respect. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force," the human said. His voice was calm but hard. "We received your message. Here is our response. Come and take it." Then the screen went dark. Valen's bridge fell silent. His officers looked at each other in confusion. In 5,000 years of expansion, no one had ever responded like that. Threats, yes. Desperate pleas, certainly. Attempts to negotiate, always. But this casual dismissal, this open challenge, was completely unprecedented. "Perhaps they do not understand their situation," Valen's second officer suggested. "They are a primitive species. They may not comprehend the power we represent." Valen considered this. It was possible. The humans had barely left their own planet. They had no faster-than-light travel. Their largest vessels were crude things that moved on chemical rockets. Perhaps they truly did not understand what they were facing. "Send the destroyer Kalon," Valen ordered. "Have them disable the largest human military station in orbit. Do not destroy it. We want them to understand our superiority, not fear annihilation. Minimal casualties." The Kalon broke from formation. It was the smallest ship in the fleet, but still twice the size of the largest human station. It moved toward a structure the humans called the International Defense Platform. The platform held perhaps 300 humans and served as their primary military outpost. Valen expected the humans to evacuate. They would see the Kalon approaching and understand that resistance was impossible. This was how it always went. Instead, the station turned to face the Kalon directly. "Sir," his tactical officer called out, "the human station is powering weapons." "Let them," Valen said. He was actually curious. What could these primitives possibly do against a Korthax destroyer? The answer came in fire and thunder. The human station opened up with everything it had. Kinetic railguns launched solid metal slugs at impossible speeds. The Kalon's shields flickered and died under the impact. Before the destroyer could respond, missiles streaked across the darkness. These were not the simple chemical explosives Valen expected. Each warhead contained nuclear fury measured in megatons. The Kalon's captain tried to activate defensive countermeasures, but the humans had anticipated this. Each missile was surrounded by dozens of smaller decoys, all radiating identical signatures. The destroyer's targeting computers could not lock on to the real threats. 3 nuclear warheads struck the Kalon in rapid succession. The shields were already down. The armor held for a moment, then buckled. Atmosphere vented into space. The ship's power core destabilized, but the humans were not finished. More missiles came, and with them beams of concentrated light that moved faster than the Kalon's remaining systems could track. These laser weapons burned through the damaged hull like needles through flesh. They targeted specific systems with surgical precision: engineering, weapons, life support, the bridge itself. The entire engagement lasted 43 seconds. When it was over, the Kalon was a drifting wreck. Emergency signals showed that less than 20% of the crew had made it to escape pods. The others were gone, killed in an attack so swift and brutal that they never had time to respond. Valen stared at the wreckage in shock. Around him, his bridge crew sat frozen in their stations. This was not possible. The humans were primitive. They should not have weapons that could penetrate Korthax shields. They should not have targeting systems accurate enough to exploit weak points in military-grade armor. They should not have been able to coordinate such a devastating attack in mere seconds. Yet they had done exactly that. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "we are receiving a message from the human captain." Jake Morrison appeared on screen again. He had not moved from his position. He did not look excited or proud. He simply looked ready. "You sent one ship to threaten 300 of my people," Morrison said. "I sent that ship back to you in pieces. This is your only warning. Leave our space. Go back to your council. Tell them that Earth is not interested in joining their club. And if you send more ships, we will send them back the same way." The screen went dark again. Valen sat in his command chair, his mind racing. He had two choices. He could launch a full assault and crush these upstart humans with overwhelming force, or he could retreat and report this incident to the council. He looked at the debris field that had been the Kalon. He thought about the speed and precision of the human attack. He remembered the cold certainty in Morrison's eyes. "All ships," Valen ordered. "Set course for the jump point." "We are leaving, sir?" his second officer asked in disbelief. "We outnumber them 11 to 1. We cannot simply withdraw." "We can and we will," Valen said firmly. "Those humans just destroyed a Korthax warship in less than a minute. They did it with technology that should not exist and tactics I have never seen before. If we attack now, we might win. But the cost would be severe, and I am not willing to pay it without understanding what we truly face." The fleet turned away from Earth. As they accelerated toward the jump point, every sensor was trained on the human vessels. The humans did not pursue. They did not celebrate. They simply watched and waited, weapons still powered and ready. On the International Defense Platform, Jake Morrison stood on the command deck surrounded by his crew. They had just done the impossible. They had driven away an alien invasion fleet with a single engagement. People were cheering and embracing each other, but Morrison was not celebrating. "Get me a line to Earth Command," he ordered. "Tell them the aliens are withdrawing for now, but they will be back, and next time, they will bring more ships." He looked out at the stars where the alien fleet was vanishing into the distance. "We just showed them we can fight," Morrison said quietly. "Now they are going to show us what happens when they fight back." Everyone prepped for combat stations around the clock. This is just the beginning. Ambassador Kelrin walked through the grand halls of the Galactic Council building, with a datapad clutched in her hands. The information it contained terrified her more than anything she had encountered in her 200 years of diplomatic service. The council chamber was already full when she arrived. Representatives from 43 species sat in their designated sections, all talking at once. The news from Earth had spread quickly. A Korthax destroyer had been destroyed. An entire invasion fleet had retreated. The humans had refused to submit. Kelrin took her place at the speaker's podium and waited for silence. It took several minutes. Everyone had questions. Everyone had opinions. Everyone was afraid. "We must establish protocols immediately," Kelrin began once the chamber quieted. "The humans do not fight like civilized species. They do not follow the conventions of warfare that have kept our galaxy peaceful for 10,000 years. She activated her datapad, and images appeared on the massive screens around the chamber. Combat footage from the Kalon's last moments, analysis of human weapons, tactical breakdowns of their attack patterns. "Look at this," Kelrin said, pointing to the footage. "The humans targeted life support systems. They aimed for crew quarters. They destroyed escape pod bays before the crew could evacuate. This is not how wars are fought in civilized space." A representative from the Thorin Collective stood up. "Are you saying they killed helpless enemies? That they targeted non-combatants?" "No," Kelrin admitted. "That is what makes this so disturbing. The humans follow strict rules about non-combatants. They have something called the Geneva Conventions that protect civilians, medical personnel, and prisoners of war. But once you are designated a combatant, once you threaten them with military force, those protections disappear. You become what they call a legitimate target." She pulled up more data. "Every human warship carries full medical facilities. They do not have separate hospital ships like we do. Every vessel is designed to fight and to heal its own crew. They refuse to acknowledge surrender until their enemies are completely unable to continue fighting. They have a concept called total war that our translators struggle to properly convey." The chamber erupted in angry voices. This was barbaric. This was unacceptable. This violated 17 different interstellar warfare conventions. "There is more," Kelrin said loudly, calling for order. "The humans have agreed to send a representative to address this council. She will arrive within the hour." The announcement caused fresh chaos. Many representatives demanded that no human be allowed into council space. Others insisted on heavy security. A few suggested that humanity be immediately quarantined or eliminated before they could spread their violent ways to other species. Lieutenant Commander Amy Sullivan arrived exactly on schedule. She was a human female in her early 30s with dark skin and intelligent eyes. She wore a formal military uniform and walked with confidence that bordered on arrogance. 2 guards escorted her to the speaker's platform, though she ignored them completely. "Thank you for inviting me," Amy said, her voice clear and steady. "I understand you have concerns about how my people conduct warfare. I am here to address those concerns directly." Kelrin stepped forward. "Lieutenant Commander, your people destroyed a Korthax warship with extreme prejudice. You targeted systems that would maximize casualties. You gave the crew no chance to surrender. How do you justify such brutal tactics?" Amy looked at her without blinking. "The Korthax came to our home with warships. They demanded our surrender. When we refused, they sent a destroyer to attack a station full of our people. They fired first. We simply finished it." "But you could have disabled the ship," another representative called out. "You could have given them a chance to retreat." "Why?" Amy asked simply. The question hung in the air. Why would we give them a chance to retreat? Amy continued. "They came to conquer us. They threatened our families. They attempted to kill 300 of our people. Why would we show mercy to invaders?" "Because that is how civilized species conduct warfare," Kelrin said. "We have rules. We have protocols. We fight with honor." Amy smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "You fight with rules because you can afford to. Your wars are limited. You fight over resources or territory or trade rights. You fight wars that can be won or lost without existential threat. We do not have that luxury." She walked to the center of the platform, looking around at all the gathered species. "Let me explain something about humanity. We are not like you. We did not evolve on peaceful worlds where resources were abundant. We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every single day. We competed with creatures stronger, faster, and more deadly than we were. We survived not because we were the biggest or the strongest, but because we were the smartest and the most ruthless." Amy pulled up images of Earth on the main screens. Predators hunting prey, humans fighting with primitive weapons, ancient wars between nations. For 300,000 years we have fought. We fought animals. We fought nature. And most of all, we fought each other. We have perfected warfare in ways you cannot imagine because we had to. Every generation that did not learn to fight better than the last generation died out. She turned back to face the council. "You want to know why we do not have rules like yours? Because our rules are different. We have the Geneva Conventions, which protect those who cannot fight. Children, civilians, medical personnel, prisoners who have surrendered. We follow those rules absolutely. Break them, and we will hunt you to the ends of the galaxy. But if you come at us with warships," Amy continued, her voice hardening, "if you threaten our people, our home, our freedom, then you are not protected. You are a target, and we will use every weapon, every strategy, every advantage we have to ensure our survival." "This is barbaric," someone shouted from the gallery. "No," Amy corrected. "This is effective. You fight wars like games with agreed-upon rules. You fight wars where both sides can walk away when they get tired. We fight wars to win them. We fight wars to ensure our people survive. There is a difference." Kelrin felt a chill run through her. "Are you saying humanity will never accept council authority? That you will never agree to limit your military capabilities?" "I am saying we will never give control of our defense to anyone else," Amy replied. "We will never agree to rules that make us weak. And we will never ever let someone threaten our families without responding with overwhelming force." She looked around the chamber one more time. "You can make us your enemies if you wish. You can try to force us to submit. But understand this. We have spent our entire existence learning how to fight and win. Every human child studies military history. Every human adult knows basic combat skills. Every human vessel from our warships to our cargo ships is designed with weapons in mind. You outnumber us," Amy acknowledged. "You have better technology in many areas. You have ships and weapons we can only dream of. But we have something you do not have. We have 300,000 years of experience in warfare. We have a culture built around survival at any cost. And we have absolutely no fear of death if it means protecting our own." The chamber was silent now. Every representative sat frozen, processing what they had just heard. "I propose a simple arrangement," Amy said. "Leave us alone. Do not threaten us. Do not attack us. Do not try to conquer us. In return, we will leave you alone. We will trade with you. We will talk with you. We will be peaceful neighbors, she paused. But if you bring war to our door, we will end it. We will end it quickly. We will end it decisively. And we will end it in a way that ensures no one else ever makes the same mistake. Amy gave a formal bow to the council. Thank you for your time. I hope we can reach an understanding. She turned and walked out of the chamber, her footsteps echoing in the silence. Kelrin looked around at her fellow representatives. She saw fear in their eyes. They had encountered aggressive species before. They had dealt with warrior cultures and militant empires, but they had never encountered anything like humanity. These humans were not warriors who loved battle. They were survivors who had mastered it.